Hey everybody, Antonia here with a review of Offenbach's Le Contes, which I saw at the Bayerische Staatsoper. The conductor was Konstantin Trinks, the production was done by Richard Jones, the sets were done by Giles Cadle, the costumes were done by Bucky Schiff, the choreographer was Lucy Burge, the lights were handled by Mimi Jordan Sharon, the chorus master was Sören Eckhoff, the dramaturgy was handled by Rainer Karliczek, and the assistant director was Marta Munde. As I stated before in the previous video where I reviewed this particular string quartet at the Cuvier Théâtre, I stated that Alexandra Kurczak canceled her performance as all four heroines because of an illness, so she was therefore replaced by Olga Pudova, who sang the role of Olympia, and Diana Damrau, who sang the roles of Antonia, Giulietta, and Stella. This was pretty much the same case which happened to Ildar Abdrazakov, who was supposed to sing all four villains, but was therefore replaced by Nicolas Testé. I will gladly talk about the performers later, but first, my thoughts on the production. I found this particular production of Le Contes to sort of have that sense of wonder, fantasy, and sort of a step into the bizarre yet wondrous mind of Hoffmann when it comes to the story of his three lovers who are actually embodiments of the opera diva Stella. The entire production starts off with Hoffmann not only writing his unfinished story, but also drinking himself to complete drunkenness with the aid of Niklaus, and Niklaus therefore introduces himself to the audience that he is actually a muse, who so happens to be in that same getup. And all the while, Stella is trying to come in Hoffmann's attic, probably to try to talk to him, but she is kind of dissuaded because she feels like Hoffmann should not be disturbed. Then we go to the main action, which is set in the bar. And I also have to say that the transition between Hoffmann's attic to the bar is actually kind of legit, because Hoffmann's attic is usually seen as a place of solitude where he can finish his unfinished works and just write whatever comes to his mind, and the bar is sort of seen as a sort of an antidote for Hoffmann's writer's block. And we see different students coming in brown blazers and brown pants. And what's also quite interesting is that Hoffmann and Niklaus look rather similar, with Hoffmann being slightly older and Niklaus being slightly younger than him, as if to state that Niklaus is sort of the splitting image of Hoffmann. While Hoffmann is slightly taller and quite masculine and seems to be quite impulsive, Niklaus is younger, more boyish, yet a little bit more of a planner than someone who would just rush into action. He basically complements Hoffmann's more impulsive nature, and that type of dichotomy works really well. And I also have to say that Landorf's costume is also quite handsome. It's simply a black coat and a black top hat, which makes him quite intimidating. And to top it all off, we even see the students, Hoffmann and Niklaus, having long pipes on their hands to state that this is going to be what the next story is going to be. And what we see in the background before each act is a long pipe with Hoffmann's face at the end, puffing out the different names of his lovers, Olympia, Antonia, and Giulietta. Going to the Olympia act, it's basically set out to be sort of like a children's party, as in when the guests come in, they come in dressing up like little boys and little girls, as if to state that there is this singing and dancing doll that they should see before their very eyes, much like how any other boy or girl would feel rather enticed by any doll or robot or a combination of both. And the scenery is quite colorful, which has a lot of pink and yellow and a lot of bright colors in the background. And the pink light is also used to great effect to show that Hoffmann has worn the rose-colored glasses to see that Olympia appears to be real when actually she is not. And Coppelius comes in sort of like a hunchback. Spallanzani and Cochenou have equally colorful costumes, but the one thing that kind of baffled me was Cochenou is in drag, as if to state that Cochenou is not only Spallanzani's servant, but probably his cross-dressing gay lover. But I really like Olympia's costume. It looks cute on her, and she does look like Disney's Cinderella, complete with the baby blue gown and that blonde hair and that really sweet demeanor. She just looked really lovely. And it also helps that the scenery where she sings Les oiseaux dans la charmille is like a background of a forest complete with cute forest animals and some birds, as if to state that she's also singing like Disney's Snow White. Then when we go to the Antonia scene, it is slightly darker and more gothic in its aesthetic. Antonia dons a simple white gown with long black hair. And let me just say that her long black hair just looks absolutely lovely. She looks so gorgeous. And a part of me feels kind of jealous because I would really love to have hair like that. Equally as creepy as the scenery is having Dr. Miracle come in as a cross between Lurch from the Addams Family and Boris Karloff's Frankenstein monster. I mean, he just looks quite intimidating. It also doesn't help matters that when Antonia sings herself to death along with the spirit of her mother, Dr. Miracle basically brings in an army of underlings to perform on their violins to accompany Antonia until she ends up fainting from like a stack of music books. Then when we go to the Giulietta act, it's quite sleazy in its aesthetics, mostly because we see a huge mirror that Giulietta lures her male clients into, and their faces get ripped off from the mirror only to be replaced by a silver mask where they're kind of having their fates sealed, which makes this dichotomy of pleasure and pain and luxury all the more interesting to witness. And then when we go to the Muse's final number in the epilogue, we see all the characters of Hoffmann's tales just emerging from the backstage, and even with Stella just leaving Hoffmann's attic as if to state that she can't really feel like she's accessible to his world anymore, which is quite bizarre and almost too full of fantastical ideas. And all of the characters end up pointing to him at the very end, signalizing that even though Hoffmann is a pretty screwed up man, he is nonetheless a genius. So overall, the production and costumes were really good. While it may not be grandly scaled like what we'd usually expect from Grand Opéra or Opéra Comique, I have to say that this particular production manages to show what Hoffmann's fantastical mind is and how he manages to tell each of his stories. And now we get to the singers, starting off with our titular hero, Hoffmann, who was sung tonight by Michael Spyres. I have admired this particular tenor for quite some time because he happens to be a singer who has an extremely wide range. Well, more specifically, vocal range. He can hit the low notes, which sound so full and round, and he can hit really high notes, which sound piercing and quite scintillating. And this is a tenor I have been longing to see live for quite some time. He usually specializes in a lot of the Italian and French works, most notably works composed by Rossini, Donizetti, Bellini, and even Meyerbeer, and he happens to have probably what I'd call an Italianita technique, a very Italian voice, yet also a pretty romantic voice which can hit all types of notes, and he has a very dashing presence. And I thought that his performance as Hoffmann was solid all throughout. Yes, he may not have the spinto quality of Neil Shikoff, who happens to be one of my all-time favorite Hoffmanns, but I have to say that his commitment as a musician and as an actor are quite in evidence from his performance as Hoffmann. He was ardent, he was passionate, and he managed to sing everything very well. And I also loved that high C which he sings in the reprise of The Legend of Kleinsack, which sounded so good. Like I said, it may not have that spinto tenor quality, but the way he managed to sing the role of Hoffmann and how he managed to act this role with the best of his abilities, complete with a lot of ardent mannerisms and a lot of great attention to the text and great attention to detail. He just did a very great job all throughout, and I would really love to hear a lot more of this tenor live. Then we go to Niklaus, who was sung superbly by the young American mezzo Angela Brower, who I also saw last year singing the role of Dorabella from the live stream production of Mozart's Cose fan tutte from the Royal Opera House. As I stated before, I think that Angela Brower is a wonderful young singer. How she managed to embody Niklaus was superb. She made him rather feisty, yet intelligent, but also someone who truly does care for Hoffmann. She did a superb job in this role, singing all her high notes with clarion precision, and I especially love her two arias, one which talks about Olympia, and the violin aria which talks about how he feels about Antonia. I thought that she managed to sing these two arias with a good amount of precision, class, and style. She was absolutely charming as Niklaus, and I can definitely tell that she had a lot of fun portraying this particular role. Olga Pudova was simply put wonderful as Olympia. She was technically precise, she played her role really well, and she sang Les Oiseaux dans la Charmille with fine technical precision and wonderful sounding high notes, especially her high E flats, and I thought she did a fine portrayal of Olympia. She does have a slightly thicker voice than what I would usually expect in any singer singing Olympia, and my personal favorite Olympias would usually have to be the lighter yet high types of sopranos. Names like Madame Esplé, and if I want extra high notes, I would probably go to the likes of Mado Robin or even Nathalie Dessay in the beginning of her career. But it's safe to say that Olga Pudova was a solid Olympia, and I've also followed this particular soprano's career for quite some time, as she's mostly been well known for singing the Queen of the Night in many opera houses, and I thought she did a very solid job in that role as well. But I thought that with her performance as Olympia, she was able to kind of trim down her voice and make her sound sweet and innocent, and she did a fine job. Then we go to the main reason why I really wanted to do this review, and that was to see Diana Damrau performing the roles of Antonia, Giulietta, and Stella. I know I'm going to hate sounding really repetitive, but Diana Damrau is probably one of my biggest role models of all time when it comes to not only being a singer, but also an actor. The way she was able to embody all of these three roles makes her extraordinary in my eyes, and her musicality and the way she throws herself into everything she does is extremely admirable. I'll start off with her performance as Antonia. The way she sang Ella fui la tourterelle was quite heart-wrenching, and her whole portrayal as Antonia was wonderfully heart-wrenching. I felt for her. I felt rather sorry for her. I felt so much empathy for this particular Antonia that tears almost rolled down my eyes when she sang the trio with Dr. Miracle and the voice of her dead mother. It was just a great experience hearing Diana Damrau as Antonia just giving the goods with everything she's got, and her duet with Michael Spyres as the Hoffman was quite well done. They had fine chemistry and equally fine musicianship, but I did feel that Madame Damrau was the more superb performer in comparison to Mr. Spyres because of how she managed to throw herself into this role and how she managed to sing all of Antonia's music with not only fine precision and how she managed to make her voice thin and light with fine pianissimi in some areas, but the way she managed to burst out all of those emotions in not only the high D and the final D flat, but also in everything that she sang, thus proving herself to be one of my most favorite singing actresses to witness on stage. She just had a very magnetic presence as Antonia, and she pretty much made that act exceptional. In terms of her performance as Giulietta, I thought she was exceptional in that role as well. While I'm not really a fan of coloratura soprano singing Giulietta, even though I do love L'amour lui dit la belle, I kind of prefer to have a dramatic soprano or even that of a super high dramatic mezzo. Any singer who sang roles like Giovanna Seymour from Anna Bolena, Sara from Roberto Devereux, Santuzza from Cavaliere Rusticana, Eboli from Don Carlo, Amneris from Aida, and of course Carmen from Carmen, and even to some extent Ariane from Ariane Barbe Bleue. And if I want a more dramatic soprano, anyone who has sung the likes of Brunhilde, Isolde, Venus, Ortrud, Electra, and even the Dyer's Wife, I would always prefer when a dramatic soprano or a high dramatic mezzo sings Giulietta, complete with the L'amour lui dit la belle, the F major version. But that's not to say that I did not like Damrau's portrayal of Giulietta. In fact, I love it so much. She was able to make Giulietta the complete opposite of Antonia. While Antonia is innocent and sweet, yet kind of rebellious, Giulietta is anything but sweet and innocent. She manages to bring out that viper-like quality to Giulietta, making her kind of snappy and almost in a sneering, hissing type of way, which makes her glorious in that particular role. And I thought that her portrayal of Stella was quite subdued and quite well done, as she was able to make her a very untouchable beauty. So overall, what more can I say? Diana Damrau steals the show as Antonia, Giulietta, and Stella, all thanks to her overall versatility and her great gifts as one of the most exceptional singing actresses I have ever seen. Then we have the four villains, Landorf, Coppelius, Dr. Miracle, and Dappertutto, who were sung by Nicolas Testé. And he manages to give each of these roles a good sense of menace and intimidation, and he manages to be a very fine singer all throughout. Yes, there were times I did notice that he kind of skipped on a few high notes, most especially that E from Landorf's aria Dans le rôle amoureux langoureux, and even that trio between Crespel, Dr. Miracle, and Offenbach, where he was supposed to sing a few high notes, and even to some extent the F sharp that I would usually expect from Sentir Diamant if it were sung in the lower key. But despite some of those slight shortcomings, I still have to say that Nicolas Testé is one of the most superb singing actors who still manages to embody all of his roles with a good amount of charisma, charm, and a sense of really injecting his characters with a lot of personality. With Landorf, he was able to make him strong and quite commanding and very focused and determined. With Coppelieu, he was able to make him quite sleazy and slimy as a character, and at the end, vengeful and full of rage. With Dr. Miracle, he was able to make him creepy, as if shivers were rolling down one's spine. And with Dappertutto, he was able to make him almost like a panther prowling on the set to see who is going to be the next prey for Giulietta. So overall, in terms of the characterization done for all four villains, Nicolas Testé not only stood superbly theatrically, but also vocally. Then we have the four servants, well, technically now three servants, Cochenille, Franz, and Pitiquinaccio, who were sung by the fine character tenor Kevin Connors, and he managed to give a good amount of comic timing to each of these roles, and I can definitely tell that this gentleman had a lot of fun portraying each and every one of these servants to the best of his abilities. I especially like his rendition of Franz's solo aria Jour et Nuit, which was wonderful in musicality, and the way he was able to hit all the notes was so well done. Then we had such really fine singing from the likes of Peter Lobert's booming, grand, full and rich, cavernous basso profondo voice as he sang the roles of Luther and Crespel, giving each of these roles a sense of masculinity, with Luther being quite open-hearted yet a bit withdrawn, and with Crespel he was able to make him a very concerned father figure to Antonia. Ulrich Ress's superbly comic and wonderfully sung Spallanzani, as he was able to put his great character tenor voice to use, and even the likes of Sean Michael Plum's superbly sung Herman, Galliano Salas's lyrical Wilhelm, and Dean Power's wonderfully superb Nathaniel, as these three gentlemen managed to do a wonderful job making the best out of these three small characters, and especially the likes of Christian Rieger, who was a dashing Schlemiel, and of course, Olga von der Damrau, who sang the role of Antonia's mother with her superb, dramatic mezzo voice, which has that lushness, yet at the same time has that power. And I can definitely tell that Signora von der Damrau has a wonderful future in the true dramatic mezzo repertoire. So overall, the singing was superb from all across the border, but special kudos really has to go to Diana Damrau for, as always, a job superbly done, and she stood strong and tall in comparison to the other soloists. But I also had to say that the likes of Michael Spyres, Angela Brower, Nicolas Testé, Kevin Connors, and even Christian Rieger, Peter Lobert, Sean Michael Plumb, Dean Power, Galliano Salas, and even Olga von der Damrau still managed to do wonderful jobs in their roles, and the conducting done by Konstantin Trinks was superb, even though there were some times there were some pretty sluggish moments from here and there. But they managed to pick up pretty well, but he kind of needs to work on the timing. But still, regardless, he managed to lead the orchestra and chorus really well, and the chorus and orchestra of the Bayerische Staatsoper were exceptional. So overall, with a pretty interesting production and great singing, especially from Diana Damrau, Michael Spyres, Angela Brower, Nicolas Testé, and Kevin Connors, I have to say that this particular production of Le Conte of Meine, thanks to all of these superstars, was an absolute blast, and also great kudos to Olga Pudova for a job well done singing the role of Olympia. And for those of you who saw this particular production of Le Conte of Meine at the Bayerische Staatsoper, what did you think of it? Did you feel like Diana Damrau did an exceptional job singing the roles of Antonia, Giulietta, and Stella? Did you feel like there was another singer who stole her thunder? Or did you feel like the singing wasn't really up to par? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for my review of Wagner's Die Meistersinger von Nürnberg live from the Bayerische Festspielhaus. So until then, good night everybody.